Okay, I try to get impatient with these videos. I want to do them all, get them all done. I don't know. I get nervous doing the videos and everything else. And then I have to restart. Whoops, my phone. Now, I am going to make a video about timing, and in particular, in computing carrying charge rates. I want to talk about the effect of different construction periods. We have a nuclear plant that might have a 10-year construction period. By the way, this is the multiple times I've tried this video. I'm probably not going to work on it. This one probably won't work either. Then we have a wind a solar project that might take about 4 months to build, maybe less. It's a roof, okay? So it might take days. How do we reflect that in the carrying charges? Because it's nowhere else in the levelized cost of a analysis. It should be in the carrying charge rate. If we're going to begin with this mythical thing called a overnight cost, which is not so mythical, but this is the pure cost. If we're going to have to measure all our costs in currency in one period of time, and then there might be inflation or something else, we have to reflect the inflation in the construction costs. We have to reflect the timing of the construction costs. We have to reflect the interest that occurs during the construction cost. All these are not anywhere in the analysis. And if we have different periods of time to construct, we have money that's just sitting there, we have to collect a higher recovery of those costs. Now, I was hoping that I could get this done in one go, in one video, and there's no way. It's going to be too long and too horrible. And what this really will be is about reviewing some things. And in this video, I am going to discuss things like what happens if we use a monthly period rather than an annual period. And if you just look over here and get a little preview, just see where it says level payment with inflation, that's really our carrying charge. Whoops. Oh, sorry about that. That's this stupid cord I have to my phone that I lose all the time. Well, I haven't lost this phone for months, or had it stolen, or put it in the toilet, or anything else. Now, um, if we make it on a monthly basis, well, that's a pretty big factor, I think. Let's make our return 15%, which is disgusting. But then if I put 12 months, we do it on an annual basis, we get 15.68 versus 1 month, 14.41. It made more than a percentage difference in the carrying charge rate. If I put 5, 4.44 versus 12, 4.62, it makes much less of a difference then. But we're going to show you all these I'm going to show you all these timing issues. Okay, so this video is just going to be a repetition of getting a timeline right. And I had to struggle last week. It was horrible. It was horrible. I am making a set of videos about crimes and impeachable offenses for in making financial models. And if you don't have a good timeline at the top, you should throw the model away. You don't have to have a true false even, but at least have a consistent timeline. I'm going to show you some examples of horrible coloring, horrible structuring, horrible style. This all stuff really does make a difference. I always thought, this is just bull, all this style stuff. The time frame certainly is not. So now I have a construction month period. We have a monthly period. I'm going to use months here. No choice, really. And then well, that's not quite true. I'll put period because maybe we'll and then we'll have a lifetime. And we how's this? This is another crime that I committed just now. If we're going to start having a model like this, we sure as hell heck better say, you know, this. Let's put this in months for now, and this in years. Now, and this is a percent P dot A per annum. This is the tax rate's just a regular percent. This is a percent P dot A per annum. The inflation rate is per annum. So we're going to have to adjust all these things, okay? And then this is a standard deviation. This is in months, actually, I think. Okay, and this is just a scenario. I'll leave that out. And this is a scenario number, just a number. Okay, and this is months. Okay, another crime that I committed, embarrassingly. Okay. Come on. Control D. All right. Now, uh, let's just talk about the timeline. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how to take this timeline and compute these carrying charges that vary with the construction. So if we have a 10-year construction period and we have a return that's 12, let's say it's 12% versus versus 10 months. 10 months it goes to 11%. 10 years it goes to 17%, and it's just enormous. Again, there's all these interaction things. So if the return is only 5%, then this whole difference is so much smaller. But that's the kind of things we want to do. I hope there's it seemed to be such a dramatic effect. I start to wonder if there's a mistake, but I don't think there is, because you know, it worked. It worked with one and not the other. So let's start our timeline. To start the timeline, put a period at the top. Define some just period counter. Don't worry about it if it changes to months. Don't do anything else but put 0, Alt EIS. Come on. Alt E, hands off IS, and let's make it 900. That's going to cover month by month for a construction period of a nuclear plant plus a 60-year life. Okay, and then because the construction period is so important, define the construction period. And this is where in this, you know, shift, if I would right click and make this tab color red or something like that, and then if I would press shift control alternate C, and then I click on this one that says add links, and I press the color sheet, and then I'm gonna press it again. Okay, perhaps I have too many red colors now, but you can see that it put a sheet name in here, and so it colored these things that were direct links. Okay, and okay, so the next thing we have to do is define our monthly period. Now I said in this scenario we're going to put in the operating phase, we'll make this annual phase. Remember I said if this is 1, it can change it a lot. It depends on the return. Let's put a 10% return in here. Okay, 10% return, it changes it to whatever. Okay, so we said, well, if it's the construction period, we're going to use this one. If it's the operating period, we're going to use this one. So I'm not against if. Some guy in New York was yelling at me, say, you don't like if statements. That's not true. F4. And then otherwise we take this one, F4. Okay, of course, the other thing that should be a crime is a long formula and not putting the the things that drive the formula next door to you. taking it from some mysterious place. Okay, now if you're going to make, notice this is an input. If you're going to make a monthly model, we're going to have to use the XIRR. We don't really have to, but if we switch it from monthly to semi-annually, it's going to pain if we, we could compute it manually, excuse me. So this time, I'm not going to put a start and end date. I'm simply going to put the eDate function. And I'm going to take the last one, which is an arbitrary date. It didn't matter. And then we just increment it by 1. Now just think about this. If this is 1 month and you go to period 10, okay, we could take this month, and if we incremented by 1, we'd get the end of the construction period for that month. If it was 2, we'd get the end of the construction period for this. So if we want to get the end of the construction period, we just take the start date we have and increment it by our number of periods of construction. Remember, this was the nuclear plant that had 120. So let's put maybe a, I don't know, wind farm that might have 36. So there's our start of construction. And I'm going to put end of construction / COD. So the COD is going to be the E date. I hope that that's not too confusing. And then we go and we add 1 because we're still in Shift Control 3. I assume you know that. Now, the operating period is supposed to be 35 years. Now, I put a formula there. Now, if we're going to potentially do it in months, we would take this operating period we have, we'd multiply that by 12, and then you divide by 1. But this time I'm going to divide by 12. So that gives me how many periods we have. If I put this to be 1, then we'd have 420 periods, which is fine. And then we take so let's figure out the end of this. I'm going to do this a little differently. Let's start at the COD and then go from the COD. Let's put the E date, go from the COD, and figure out how many months we have. So if this is monthly, we take this months and we multiply it by we multiply it by 12. We divide it by 12. We multiply it by this one. We multiply it by 12. Excuse me. Oh, shoot. I should have looked at it. I should have cheated. E date. Take this one. Start with this one. And then just take this one and multiply it by the monthly period factor we have, which is down here for the operating period. So now we're going to multiply it by 1. But if it was, a monthly period, we put 12 in here. Excuse me, I can't even see. We'll put 12, and we get the same start date and end date. Do you see that? I put 1 and put, oh, that was 11. I'm sorry, 12 and 1. Okay, and the same kind of date. And then we take the classic kind of thing, which is our AND function, go up to the date, and this time it's greater than or equal to the start date, F4, and we take this thing again and make it less than or equal to this one because of the way I use the E date. Now, you might not say, how did you know that? And I was wrong. Should have just been less than because we started. Shift Control R. And then what I did here is put equal COUNTIF, and I think what a good little thing to check. COUNTIF, how many different trues you have, and then put a comma true. I know I've done this a lot, but I think it's worthwhile. And then let's do one more thing. Let's format. Sometimes I format the entire sheet. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to start here. Where you start this is really crucial. And then we're going to make a conditional format that shows different formats for different time periods. Now you start this area. I'm just going to do it at the top. And then let's go to our home and conditional formatting. And here's the rule. You use a new rule. You always use a formula. And you have to start in the left. And we'll say, well, when it's the construction period, and I'm not even going to put a true or false, but press F4. Come on. F4. And I'm not going to put equal true. I don't have to put equal true. And for the construction period, let's format it with a nice mild color. How about, big decision. How about this? Then we can put OK. And then we can go back. I think we could have almost done it with a new rule. And let's format a when it's the operating period, F4, again, start in the left. And no, you don't need an equal true. And let's format that as hopefully a lighter color. How about green? And okay, I guess we don't go to a new rule, and let's do a final one. And let's say I want to format just the COD period, which is a typical one I would do. Put this one, press F4 just one time and put it equal to the COD period, which has got a no F4. That's always going to be fixed. And I think we could format that as a blue one. Okay. And then we'll press OK. And then we get kind of our construction period, 36 months. There's our operating period. And our COD period. And there's our operating period. Okay, this is crucial. Oh God, that's kind of silly to do it. But when we're finally, it's finished. Okay, I'm not going to worry about finding the last period. It would be nice to almost figure out a way to really elegantly, maybe I'll come up with this, maybe you will, how to just stop it right at COD, stop it at decommissioning, so you could just automatically jump over to those different things. Now, when we work through this construction period, okay, this return that was entered, and this return is another crime because I'm going to format it this much better when we kind of finally finish this stuff. This return of 10% and the life, they're kind of not in the right order. The date should have been in one place. These months should have been up here with those months. That's another crime that I committed. But let's make it we need a periodic return. Okay, so, and that periodic return is going to be used in the payment function. And that payment function is not exactly consistent with the XIR. That's why we get these 9.99 things here. Please, I hope you're not all concerned about that. Oh my gosh. And then we take that and raise it to the period of 12. divided by, if it was 12 divided by 12, it would just be 1. But we're going to divide it by the period in the operating model. And, of course, I needed a parentheses there. And then we subtract 1. Okay. And I did it wrong. 1. This should have been this one, excuse me, periods in the operating period. Can I attribute this to my 24-hour flight? I hope that that's, and what I just did is divided by 24 because I talked about my, okay, that's our periodic rate. You just raise it to the 1/12th power minus 1. I've done that so many zillion times. Okay, and we need that, and we're going to do the same thing for the inflation because we want to be able to run it either on a monthly basis or on a annual basis. Now, once we have that, we're going to put in all this depreciation. Then I'm going to make discuss how this thing works without taxes and inflation. Then we're going to put the taxes in. Then we're going to put the inflation in. And finally, we're going to put in the inflation in both the construction and in the payment function. And we're going to demonstrate that the IRR, this 9%, is kind of what we put in as the return. So we're going to kind of prove all of our analysis. And we're starting to get a little closer to really computing the carrying charge in a really careful way. I tend to, in my classes, I tend to scoff over the carrying charge way too much. And you can see it's really quite an involved calculation. And we're going to see that you can get very different numbers unless you're really careful with almost each one of these things. And I hope finally you can see that these use a lot of the old project finance principles. So that's the end of kind of the periodic analysis. I'll call this periodic analysis in carrying charge.